Today I'm making a hand-painted border print skirt. First I'm making the rectangle skirt, and I decided to pick out my button before doing anything else. So here's my white button jar. I've already gone ahead and cut out the pieces. It's 3 27-inch long pieces of fabric by the width of the fabric, and the waistband piece, which I do 5 inches, fold it in half, and then fold up a 5/8 seam allowance on the one edge, and then I sew the ends shut and iron it all flat. So that's what I'm comparing these buttons to, is that pre-stitched waistband. And the winning button, it's sort of like a faux shell look button. Then I'm just assembling the rectangle skirt, so that's sewing together the panels at the selvage edges. I leave one of the seams open so that I can gather and insert the zipper after I've got the waistband sewn onto the top. This is my sleeve board that I have gotten in the bad habit of using for ironing little things without having to get my whole ironing board out. I used it back when mask making was in full swing earlier this year to iron a bunch of bias tape, and it is now burnt and water damaged, and I need to make a new cover for it. But it still does the trick. So I just ironed all those seams flat, and now I'm taking the top edge and doing a long gathering stitch. I do 1 stitch for each panel so that I can gather it up in thirds and have it be as even as possible. And here we have gathered it all up to the waistband, and we're stitching the waistband onto the skirt. So I have the waistband pre-made. I take the raw edge, pin it to the gathers, and stitch that down, leaving the edge that's ironed up to the seam allowance free, so that I can fold it over and catch that folded finished edge when I do the stitch in the ditch step, which is coming up next. Here comes the zipper. This is actually before the stitch in the ditch phase. I want to get the zipper put in before I've attached the waistband fully so I can catch it in those stitches so it's nice and finished at the top. And now I'm sewing the rest of the seam allowance on those back seams together under the zipper. Then we're doing the stitch in the ditch bit. So we've got all of the waistband pinned down. I'm just going and carefully stitching along the seam line between the gathers and the waistband, catching that folded edge on the back so that it's all finished off inside and there are no raw edges. Should also mention that I always interface my waistbands so they don't stretch out when they're being worn. And buttonhole foot. Got that button we chose in there, and the automatic buttonhole foot. Just loading it up and letting the machine do its thing. And then just the hem of the skirt to finish off the construction part. I folded it up about a 1/4 inch, ironed that around, folded it up about another inch, and ironed that down, and now I'm just stitching about an inch from the edge to catch the folded edge on the back and create a nice hem. And onto decoration. This design I have going here is based on the Death's Head Cemetery decoration, which is an early American cemetery decoration. If you go back east or you live back east in the United States, this is all over a bunch of gravestones. I like it as Halloween imagery. So I went and created a template for the scallop design. I wanted that to be even, but I wanted all of the death's heads and little embellishments to look hand-drawn, so I didn't create a template for those. So the scallop is a template, everything else is free-handed. The line on the bottom, the lower line is the seam, the stitch on the hem. So that'll be covered up by paint so it's not visible, and then a 1/2 inch above that. And then the scallops went on top of that. As I said, I wasn't really aiming for perfection on these skulls, so they're all a little unique. And then at the end here, I ended up with a weird space. So I folded the scallop in so I could get the same amount of height, but a different width. It's really not as obvious in the final skirt as I thought it might be, so hooray! Alright, got the whole design on there in pencil, just a charcoal pencil. Now I'm going in with some white acrylic paint mixed with fabric medium. And just filling in the lines that I've already done in the charcoal. Alright, now I'm going in with some black acrylic, once again mixed with that textile medium, and I'm just doing outlines. And as always, not aiming for perfection. I like the lines being sort of sketchy. So each of these sections of 3 had to be painted, which took about 40 minutes for each section, and then had to dry, and there are 13 repeats on this skirt, so it took quite a while, but I think it turned out really great. I love it. I'll be wearing it all spooky season. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more of what I'm doing, come back tomorrow and that subscribe button. And if you want to see what I did yesterday, it's linked up on the screen for you.